Hello there everyone, how you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today we're going into r/entitled people, where people are, in fact, very entitled. If you enjoy, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below with your thoughts on the stories and all that other stuff. Now, let's get started, shall we? My parents are stalking me because God told them to. Hi, I'm a 24 female and I live on my own out of my parents' house. I have a bit of situationship going on with my friend. We'll call him David. We had a fling a few months ago and now it's kinda happening again. It started out just hanging out and enjoying David's company. Then it slowly turned into more again. The thing is, my parents knew about the first fling. David used to be inseparable from my dad. They were like father and son in a way. Until David and I had our fling. Now my dad is trying to control him, telling him he has to have no contact with me outside of a group chat we were all in. We were there when my parents walked in. They don't live in the same city as me. I live about 20 minutes away from them, and they just randomly showed up at the store right by my house. They claimed it was to find batteries, and at that point my dad confronted David and said he told him not to be around me, and he told me he isn't going to care anymore and not to go crying to him when I got heartbroken. My mom texted me later saying,
"It was totally the Holy Spirit revealing that something was happening so they can intervene."
I'm kind of glad that happened because after David and I left that, we opened up a conversation about what's really going on between us. We both enjoy our company and we both have feelings for each other, but we are taking it slow. While we're talking, my dad only wants for one thing, and he doesn't care about me as much as he does. And that if David is in love with me, he'd ask for permission to date his daughter and play by his rules. David told me he does really care about me and that it's a lie that he doesn't. Anyways, we reached to continue hanging out, especially since my dad said he no longer cares. We both have annual passes to Disneyland, so we decided to go together after work. While we were there, my mom and dad texted me asking if I was at Disneyland. I ignored their texts, of course. We were all there until closing. And we were walking out, my dad walked up to us with a Starbucks bag and asked us to talk. David kept walking and said no, and of course me wanting to keep the pace begged David to, and he said no. I told him I'm his ride, and he said he'd just get an Uber, and I told him no, so I just left my parents there and left. I cried in the car, and David told me it's not my fault. While I was in the car, I texted my mom how she knew she was there, and she said,
"God is watching."
And I asked again how they knew, and she said she'd meet me by the house and tell me. And I said no, you will not meet me at the house, that's weird, Mom. How did you know I was at Disneyland? She stopped messaging me and then my dad messaged me this.
"If you want to know how we knew you were there, you could talk to us in person. We bought peace and we tried to be loving, even though I knew David was doing stuff that he said he wouldn't do. I just want him to care for you as much as I do, and your mother does, but you're gonna find out, honey, and it's really sad. He had every opportunity right there to confess his love for you and to ask us for space. We could have had a good discussion, but instead he was a coward and ran away. From here on out, you are not to come to my home. We can meet in public to talk about how we knew you were at Disneyland because we had every intention of telling you, and that was going to be part of the conversation. I've never lied to you and I never will. I do not have anything to hide."
That conversation could have been great.
That conversation could have been great. We're still going to have it.
But David sadly is not. I did nothing to him to deserve the treatment that we got from him, and I've never treated him any other way that
I would treat a good son, and I hope and I pray that he doesn't do what I know he's going to do. Wolves come for the sheep, and they separate the sheep from the flock, and then they devour the sheep. But Good Shepherd will protect you, and if David ever was a sheep, he'll listen to the voice of God. The people that loved him and cherished him. I love you, OP, and I wish nothing but the best for you. If you want to talk, we are willing to talk to you about anything you want to know.
I responded with, Dad, I don't expect him to be in love with me. That's way too soon. And if you don't want to hide the truth, just explain how you know I was there. I will not be meeting in person for a conversation that can be had over text. Then he responded with,
Then just don't meet with me. That's how it's gonna come out because you need to see my demeanor and everything. And shame on you guys for trying to point the finger back at us. You guys are the ones that are not doing right and hiding. Literally every box that was checked for you to like David was erased by David. All the things you liked about him are now gone, and it was now David's own hand. From now on, do whatever you want. I'm cutting this pain off. I mean it. Don't come to my house again because we will not be able to support your drama any longer. You're gonna have to learn the hard way. The only difference is now your mother and I are numb and we don't feel anything. God will show the truth, and I wanted to make sure you weren't hurt in the process.
I don't care if I don't meet with them or not. I can't handle the helicopter parenting anymore. And I feel like any time I have ever been a boy around, my dad has had to place himself in the middle, forcing the guy out. The guys that have been okay with it in the past end up not working out because of my fear that if my dad control him now, like the whole future will still be controlled by him. And if I don't do it their way, I'm doing it wrong. I really like David and he likes me. I'm 24 years old, and for once I have a guy who doesn't run away from him because of my readily super involved parents. I don't know what to do. What I'm concerned about is how my parents followed me there, and why. I don't know what to do. Any advice is greatly appreciated. Thank you for reading as much as you did, and please, any suggestions would help, because I feel alone right now. Edit. Thank you everyone who gave advice and suggestions. I decided I'm going to let myself settle for a few days. I'm going to agree to hear my parents out, just to know how they got my location. As controlling as they are, I still love them, and I can say with certainty they have always been honest. My dad said he'll tell me how they found out I was there in person. I'm going to give myself a few days to get my own nerves and emotions down. I'll post an update when that happens. Honestly, thank you everyone. It's nice to see I'm not crazy and that I'm not a terrible person. It's reassuring to see that this isn't normal behavior, and I can't thank you all enough for that. It gave me a bit of peace in mind, to be honest. Thank you for giving advice to a no-name person on Reddit. Edit 2. I texted my dad and told him I'd be willing to talk within the next few days. He then told me I needed to find a new phone provider. This is the last bill I have connected with my folks. They pay for it in their account, and I just pay them back for my line every month. I think that cancels out of them tracking me via phone provider, especially since this is another attempt to control by using fear of cutting off a service I can very easily get on my own. I looked for any AirTags, I couldn't find anything. He still refuses to tell me how he tracked me unless I meet with him, my mother, and our pastor at the church. And there are no updates after this point. Someone in the comments says, check your car for a tracking device. If they have keys to your place, change the locks. There is something very wrong with him. This level of stalking and harassment is concerning. Adding in the religious aspect of it, they sound unhinged. And I agree. They sound absolutely unhinged. On to the next story. Dad wants to move up here, and I do not want it. I posted a couple days ago, pretty sure it was here, about my dad who basically last minute told me he couldn't help me next week when I give birth. Today I had a conversation with him, just talking. I don't like confrontation and I just wanted to keep the peace. So when we talked, I was basically like, yeah, sounds fun, sounds bad, sure. The conversation until he brought up about wanting to help me. This version of wanting to help is quitting his job. He's notorious for staying at a job for about 3 to 4 months, then quitting when he doesn't get his way, and move up here to stay with me, my husband, toddler, and newborn to help us. He wants me to quit my job. I love my job. They've let me go remote until I can get daycare for my newborn, and it's not a very demanding job at all, so I can focus on my school. I just graduated from Associate Summa Cum Laude, and I'm on track to do the same with my bachelor's and the babies. On paper, that sounds great, but I know my dad. He did this with my firstborn. He moved in with us, asked us what kind of help we wanted. I told him I just needed someone to babysit. I didn't want him paying any bills, and this was agreed upon, but instead decided to get a job overnight and not babysit at all. Refused to clean, refused to help out with anything other than monetary stuff. Shit hit the fan with me and my husband decided to break our lease, and he had to figure out where to go because he couldn't follow us to New York at the time, thankfully. Now he's discussing with the rest of my family how he's going to move up here, start a landscaping business, and help again without even asking me. He just assumes I'm going to agree. And when I bought up I don't have room for him, nor will my landlord agree to him moving in, he's just,
It'll be fine if you get kicked out. We'll find something else. Just talk to your husband.
I know my husband will not agree to this because of last time. He's already expressed how much he hates my father and will not stand for him to move in with us. And every time my father visits, my husband is on edge because he thinks my father will decide to just not leave one day, which is a possibility, unfortunately. I'm at the point I need to go very low contact because my father doesn't understand boundaries. I just need to actually do it. I would say, no, that didn't work for me last time, so we aren't going to consider it again. Or maybe less confrontational and go, I don't think we can make that work. We don't have enough room. Or just be vague, but use the word no. Have strength. You should expand your interests. So my family thinks I have minimal interests/hobbies. For example, I once talked about Ankylosaurus with my grandpa after I bought a Jurassic World Ankylosaurus at Walmart when we were together. He replied,
90% of people aren't interested in that.
And before my grandma died, I told her my gecko was doing really well. She really liked him a lot after I shared it to my grandpa in that conversation. He told me I shouldn't talk about things I'm only interested in. So my dad loves to complain about my interests. I would tell my dad I love Star Wars, but I'm also into Gundam, Star Trek, and so on. And my dad's like,
Those are all fantasy. Why don't you get into real things?
Unfortunately, my brother has the same attitude with me as well. I told my dad how my grandpa isn't much outside of Christianity and how he's happy with his life. I questioned how that's any different from me being a sci-fi enthusiast. He just kept saying,
You need to expand your horizon.
He wanted me to be into stuff like sports, but the closest thing I'm interested into regarding that is WWE, which is something I occasionally watch. This is very ironic because yesterday talked about baseball and how Mets lost or something, even though I don't give a flying F about sports and we don't even live in New York. So it's weird he doesn't apply his own logic with conversation with me. It doesn't help that my family thinks I have autism because of a misdiagnosis back in high school. In reality, I'm bipolar with minor ADHD. At one point, my dad tried to grift to one of my social workers about these special interests and claimed I'm on the autism spectrum despite it not being on my current records. Next time your dad or brother wear a team jersey, tell them you like their sports cosplay. If they're in a fantasy league and bringing it up to compare it to LARPing or a TTRPG, do they play video games perchance? They'll really love their own logic being used against them, right? Entitled parents instantly change their opinion on sex, partying, and being financially dependent on parents because they want to feel superior to childless people. I made a comment on a Facebook page saying that I felt infantilized by the way some people were talking about me versus a former coworker/acquaintance who is literally 2 months older and has a kid. A bunch of young moms comments like,
Having a kid makes you grow up faster when you were partying and having one-night stands.
Excuse me.
She was at home taking care of her kid. You were at college living off your parents' money. She had to provide for another human and be independent. She absolutely strides ahead of maturity.
I said that I never once went to a club, got drunk, and so on, and I never had a one-night stand. The reason I've never been pregnant or had kids is because I was abstinent. I didn't have a boyfriend until I was 21 years old. And I also said that I've been paying my own bills since I was 21 years old, and that coworkers' parents sent her money every month for diapers, formula, daycare, and so on. Now they're saying that
Teenagers have sex. It's normal. Don't slut shame. Don't be so holier than thou. Partying is just part of being young. Not everyone wants a boring life like you. And nothing wrong with needing help with bills in this economy.
never said anything was wrong with any of those things, but you literally did a few minutes ago. I never called anyone a slut, just corrected their comment about me having one-night stands. Why am I holier than thou and preachy for simply saying that I'm not partying or having one-night stands and that I pay my own bills? But they aren't for saying the same thing and making value judgments on other people. Throw it back in their faces again. Call them out on being goddamn hypocrites. This is narrator here, talking about my own experiences. I cannot stand hypocrisy. That shit pisses me off so much. Oh my god. Oh, that gets me so heated. I do not like hypocrites whatsoever. Oh. That's the end of today's video. I've reached my limit on peopling. Anyway, if you enjoyed, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and all that other stuff, and I will see you all next time. Hasta la pasta! I'm suffering.